Are you a hardworking local business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now, here's your host.
Yes, this is James Martell, and I am your host for the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. And today I'm joined by my co-host, Jose Quiroz, a local customer acquisition specialist and a partner here at Smarter Local. And today we're going to be discussing the number one secret to increase positive Yelp reviews. And if you're wondering if it's worth your time to pay attention to your Yelp reviews, consider a recent Harvard study that confirmed an increased revenue of 5 to 10% is available simply by increasing your rating overall by 1 star. So I would think it's probably worthwhile paying a little bit of attention to your Yelp reviews. Now, before Jose joins us, just a reminder that if you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy for your business that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, go ahead and reply to the email in which you receive this podcast episode to arrange a free 30-minute discovery call to discuss how a Smarter Local Marketing program can be custom tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you receive this podcast episode to arrange your free discovery call. No obligation. We'll have a chat and see what we can do for your business. Now, again, Jose Quiroz is a local marketing specialist and a partner here at Smarter Local. Jose, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, James?
Very good, thank you. I understand we've timed this discussion well because you are just planning to do a Facebook Live session on the topic of Yelp, and I thought, I guess the stars are aligned.
That is right. Yeah. So we're hosting right now twice a month. We're going to probably move it now to once a week on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/smartlocaldigital. And we're doing Facebook Live trainings, talking about different online services and different tactics of online marketing. And the next one is called Help with Yelp. We're going to talk about Yelp and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about here, and then, add a little bit more in that training. So if you guys are available, make sure you check us out at facebook.com/smartlocaldigital and keep an eye out for that live training.
That's great. So, hey, why don't we start off with talking a little bit about, maybe you could cover this, what Yelp is, and I guess why business owners really shouldn't be afraid of it. Because I do know sometimes you talk about reviews with a local business owner and they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to do reviews." And there's some inherent problems in that. But let's start off, if you would. What is Yelp?
Yeah, so to simplify it, Yelp is a website, a directory that mentions your business and that you're able to have a profile for your business. Think of back in the day when you would pay to be on the yellow pages, that that big book. Something similar now is just at the digital level, and it just mentions your business, other businesses like yours, breaks them down to categories, restaurants, bars, etc. And it's a huge platform where people go there to look at what other people are saying about those businesses, what they look like, get almost an inside experience of the business before going there. So, if we're going to do a technical definition, it's a directory that mentions your business and it categorizes by the category of the business, the industry, and then it allows people to review and rate it. In a nutshell, that's what Yelp is.
Now let's talk to this area, being a little bit queasy about our Yelp reviews. I know we're going to talk a little bit about the solution to that in a bit, but it's really not that difficult overall to basically tackle this. When a business owner says, "I don't want to do reviews," they're scared that they might have a negative review or a bad review. And I've found the reality of it is, I don't care what kind of business you have, no matter how good you are, you're always going to have some bad reviews.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone that's having a bad day, or if you're selling a product, there's a manufacturer created some kind of fault in the product, whatever the case is, it's always going to happen, right? So you shouldn't fear that. It's kind of like that Warren Buffett style, right? You should play into the fear. So if a lot of other business owners like yourself are being fearful about it, that means they're not taking advantage of it. So if you start taking advantage of it, you'll be ahead of the curve, right? Because everyone else is scared to play in the sandbox, but you're in there, throwing sand around. So definitely don't be afraid of it. Once you really start getting into it, you'll actually find it's a really useful tool to stay engaged with your customers.
I was pulling up some stats before we got on the call today, and let me just kind of read them out because I think it's a really powerful way to just to see how impactful these reviews can be. It says 84% of people trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation, and I think we all know how powerful a personal recommendation is, and that online reviews are basically pretty much the same.
Yep, exactly. And that's a really, really important stat because every business owner understands the power of word of mouth. And this is pretty much just that at the digital level. So now people are not just depending on their family or friends to tell them what the best restaurant is, but they're going on here to this website, to this platform that says, hey, 1,000 people in your area mentioned that this place is pretty good. So you might want to go check it out. So that's really important to keep in mind.
90% of consumers read less than 10 reviews before forming an opinion about a business. And you mentioned 1,000, and there are a lot of businesses that have that kind of reviews. And there's others that may only have, 5 or 10 or 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 reviews. But if they're positive reviews, I think for the reasons you just stated, of course, that weights heavily towards somebody giving your business a try. Fair statement?
100% fair statement. That's actually the first time I heard that stat about people reading only about less than 10. But it makes sense because myself, I do that. Well, first of all, I'm looking at what the overall rating is. If a restaurant is under 4 stars, I'm probably not going to take the time to review it. But once I see that, then I kind of go in there and I just, read 1 or 2. And after that, I have a good picture of kind of what I'm looking for based on pictures and reviews, and I'm ready to make my decision.
74% of consumers say that positive reviews will help them to trust a local business. And I guess for the same reason you just mentioned, that makes sense. If you've got a whole bunch of other people say, hey, this is a pretty good place, you should check it out, the more likely they are to do exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. It makes total sense, right? You're going to go with whoever, whether it's a realtor or a restaurant. There's some people who are out there a little bit more adventurous, right? And going somewhere blindfolded, but a lot of us like to mitigate risk and see, well, who else has been there and what was their experience like?
58% of consumers say that the star rating of the business is the most important factor.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like I said, when I'm first looking on there, if it's under 4 stars, I'm not really wasting my time.
Yeah. It's kind of tricky sometimes in a different world, in the world of movies, when I go look at the ratings, and they're all typically 5-star ratings as well. I go through them, and sometimes you get a little bit slipped up where you go see one that's maybe 3 stars, and it's actually a great movie. But when you're dealing with restaurants and other local businesses, I think that the star ratings are usually pretty typical of what's actually happening in that business. So the other thing we should probably mention, although we're talking about Yelp, consumers have many other places that they can leave reviews. Maybe you could rattle off a couple of them.
First of all, you're right. With movies, especially a lot of that art is subjective, right? So people have their own taste that they like. But I tend to see that when it comes to with a local business, it's pretty spot on. Not just Yelp, you have Facebook, you have Google, Super Pages, Yellow Pages, any Foursquare, TripAdvisor. I mean, you can go on and on, all these different platforms where people can actually review and rate your business. So what I usually advise my local clients is, tackle one at a time and focus on the big 3, which are your Google, Facebook, and Yelp, but make sure you're getting ratings and reviews on the other ones as well, because that's going to help with your search results and overall just convincing people to come through your doors.
And in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the number 1 secret for gaining more positive Yelp reviews. Before we do that, let's a couple quick discussion points, or let's say maybe 3 of them. Bad reviews can validate a business's authenticity. Talk to that, if you would. I think what I kind of meant there was a bad review isn't a bad thing because it actually can help reflect on the positive reviews.
Yes, 100%. So obviously you don't want 1,000 bad reviews. If that's the case, then you might need to address your business model. But if you have 1, 2, 3 bad reviews in a sea of 400 good reviews, then that just brings a little bit of authenticity to it, right? Now that can allow a person, see, the consumer is pretty savvy, so they can read or smell a fake review, from a mile away. So if they see that's a 1 star and and that's being compared or ratioed out to a lot of 5-star reviews, and they kind of read it and they see this tone and they can tell that maybe this person is just, that's their type of personality where they like to go rant off. People can read that. So a bad review can give you some authenticity and bring you that balance of, okay, they got 25 great reviews, one bad review. Well, what was it all about? What's going on? And it just, people also, because they're savvy, they're also aware that people can fake reviews and that people can go in there and spam reviews. So having that bad review in there can bring that realness to it and say, yeah, no, they're good. This bad apple was a bad apple. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have one or two here and there.
And I think most people who are looking at the reviews understand that. I know, I've got a client, Sawbuck's Pub up here in the greater Vancouver area, and I know you're based in California, but it'd be the same thing where you've got somebody leaving reviews, and I'm just looking at the reviews for Sawbuck's Pub right now in Google, and they've got 309 Google reviews, 4.1 out of 5, so it's pretty good rating. But if you take a look at the dynamics of any business where you've got staff can be grumpy some days, and they could be, not be as friendly as they should be, or customers can be grumpy some days, and sometimes just something goes wrong. And sometimes people will forgive that. Sometimes they get on and they want to, tell their story. That's the whole purpose of reviews. So again, I think it'd be a fair statement to say bad reviews are actually quite a positive thing, as you kind of mentioned there. If they're mixed in with a bunch of positive reviews.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my clients, they're a barbershop, and they really well. I think they're about 4.5, maybe if not 5 stars. They're called Faded Hair Studio here in Northern California, and they got a bad review. And during that bad review, some of the clientele actually went in there and supported them, right? Mentioned, oh, maybe you came in at a wrong time, or, well, that's never been my experience there. I'm not sure, kind of what you're talking about. So even then, that helped them get more engagement from their fans and from their local ambassadors. And even the people that were happy clients of them came in, told them about that review, and, said something along those lines like, oh, we'll respond for you, or, we'll support you. So it's a good thing.
And then responding to negative or bad reviews, that it too can be a positive thing. Why don't you share, a little bit of experience there? You talked about some of the other patrons coming in and saying, hey, well, maybe, kind of giving them a positive spin. But it's also good for the business owner to come in and, maybe apologize. We don't like to apologize sometimes if it really wasn't our fault, but it's really a good idea.
Yeah, no, you're right. So always being professional. There's kind of two sides of that coin of why it's good, right? There's the qualitative side of, well, you can show your customer service there. You can show how professional you are. You can show how you deal with a bad situation. So then other potential customers can see that and say, you know what, I like this business owner, or I like this business. They take the time to actually respond and engage with people and make sure that their customer is leaving with a good experience, right? That's the qualitative side of it. The quantitative side of it is the internet likes engagement. So if you're going in there and responding to bad reviews, Google will see that, and other, search engines and other platforms will see that. And that gives you a little bit of boost because it just shows that there's more engagement on your profile. And that helps you out, in their magical algorithms that they have out in the wild world of the internet. That will help out because now you're actually getting a little bit more engagement in there. So it's twofold, and it's good both ways.
Yeah, that's such a good thing to point out. And I know a lot don't understand, just because nobody's ever told them, that reviews is one of the ranking criteria that Google looks at to help them to determine where you should be listing in the search ranking. So in addition to getting the positive effects of, people trusting you, reviews coming to see you, you're also getting a little bit of a boost in the search engines if you're taking care of your reviews, as you said. And first of all, having reviews. Secondly, taking it to another level and actually engaging back with them is a big thing. I was just looking at one of the other episodes we did with Tony Valentino. So a shout out to Tony in Florida. He's a Smarter Local partner based out of there. And in that episode, he was talking about how one small tweak to a website literally exploded sales for one of his clients. And it's a pretty interesting episode. And you'll find it in, link to it in the show notes. But it kind of reminds me of where we're at here, too. Sometimes these little things, like taking care of your reviews, if you go out and look at your competitors, you'll find a lot of them are not paying attention at all, as you said earlier. And this gives you the ability to take a big step ahead of them, because taking care of reviews, there's so many benefits to it. And I know sometimes we're a little queasy about doing it and get a little too personally involved in what the person said about our business. And if that's you, maybe you want to put a staffer in place to take care of that kind of stuff, or hire it out to a company like somebody at Smarter Local here just to take care of it. But it's so worthwhile.
Yeah. I have a few clients that, when I first started talking to them about this, they were very, very sensitive about it, right? Because they felt it was a personal attack on their character, which, that's how it is. If you spend so much time creating a business, it's your child. So when someone's saying something bad about your child, you go in yeah, exactly. You go in mama bear mode. It's really been a lot of coaching and just kind of training them and saying, and like you mentioned, sometimes we say, okay, put a staffer on it, someone who has less emotional stake in it, but they're going to keep the business kind of forward thinking. That's the number one priority. Or then we take that on ourselves. And then that way we can always be professional and not get so emotionally wrapped up. But, it happens. It definitely happens.
A client of mine over on the island, he's a chiropractor, and I was talking to him last Friday, and he said, we just had a really bad review on one of the doctor review sites. And he's like, he's in there answering it. And he says, you know what? It was good feedback. They're right. We dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the other flip side. It kind of gives us a way to keep us, paying attention to our clients in our business, because I know it's tough to run a business these days, and we're busy as a bee. So a little bit of a nudge once in a while from the clients too. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I totally agree. As business owners, we tend to think, no one is our boss, but at the end of the day, we are held accountable to our customers.
That's true.
So if they're voicing a concern, we have to make sure that it's valid.
You bet. So the first two discussion points I had were bad reviews can validate a business's authenticity. The second one was responding to bad reviews can be a positive thing. And then the third one here, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this in and out, is that you can't stop bad reviews from happening, but you can flood them out with positive reviews. So let's talk about that. And then we're going to get into the secret to actually increasing the number of positive reviews you have, not only on Yelp, but on Google, on Facebook, and the other review directories as well.
Yes, bad reviews are going to happen no matter what, right? I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Like we mentioned, someone's having a bad day, staffers having a bad day, whatever the case may be, it's going to happen. But what you can do is you can be proactive in getting good reviews. So as my business owners are listening to this, keep in mind, who are those ambassadors, right? Who are those people that right now in your mind you can think of 5 people, right? To say they've been coming to me for years. I've been serving them for years. They love me. I treat them like family. They treat me like family. Have they reviewed you online? And most likely they haven't, because you just build that traditional relationship with them. You haven't taken it to the digital side. So imagine if you just tap into those people who are already fans of yours, already ambassadors of yours, and start asking them to leave you reviews. And then as you start building new relationships with new customers, you start having better experiences, start thinking of where in your sales funnel, where in your sales process can you start asking for reviews, right? So maybe you, at the time of handing over the receipt or the time of completing a project and handing over the invoice, the final invoice, or getting final payment, that's maybe where you kind of want to nudge that and say, if you enjoyed the experience as much as I did, I'd love for you to, tell the world that and give us a review online.
I know that Harvard review we talked about, or I mentioned earlier, with a 5 to 10% increase by increasing your star rating by 1. So if you're a 3, moving it up to a 4. If you're a 4, moving it up to a 5. That's pretty profound and a pretty simple way to increase revenues. And that secret that we've been kind of talking about, and you and I talked about this before we got on, we were saying, is this right? This sounds a little bit high. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But the secret is, according to Bright Local's annual local consumer review study, and Bright Local is one of the industry leaders in local tools that we use to help measure and determine what needs to be done for local business so we can get them to the top of the list in search and in reviews and citations and other things. But they said 70% of consumers will leave a review for a business when asked. What's your thoughts on that?
Like we mentioned earlier, seems a little high. It does seem a little high. From my experience when talking to local business owners, some of them say that they do ask for reviews, but it's rare that, people actually review them. And we kind of mentioned this before the call as well. How effectively are they asking? Which is something that I think we should start inquiring about when a business owner claims that they do ask for reviews, right? So, okay, walk me through the process. When exactly do you do it? How exactly do you do it? Do you give me a flyer, or do you just say it verbally? Do you send me an email, or do you just say it verbally? And I think that's where you can really see that change. If you provide some kind of takeaway, an email with a link that's clear and direct to your reviews. But also, if you then tap into those ambassadors, to those loyal fans and the loyal customers, you could probably see a really high conversion rate, right, in asking them for reviews.
Yeah. One of the things that I would encourage all listeners to do is, maybe if you're in front of a computer now or you have your phone, pull up Google and maybe go to Yelp, or just go to Google and do a search for your business name. You'll see how many reviews you have with Google, and then maybe head over to Yelp and do a search for your business to see how many reviews you have there. And then pick your top 2 or 3 local competitors and see how they're doing. And one of the things I always like to get my clients focused on is beating out their competition, because we're entrepreneurial, all of us, and we like to compete. And if they've got so many reviews, I want to beat them on behalf of the clients as well. So it's always, I find it's a good first benchmark. And what I find that most business owners discover is that their competition doesn't typically have a lot of reviews. They don't have any mechanisms in place to actually assist them. And as you said, we can ask for reviews, and we should. We can provide them with instructions, and we should. And we've got little flyers and stuff that we give out to our clients so that they can print and hand off to their customers. And we're more than happy to assist you with that. But other things that we do as well is we encourage our clients to gather up email addresses from their customers and clients. And then what we do is about every 6 months, we send out a little email to the entire client list and ask them for a review. And I know, just dealing with Sawbucks as an example, Sawbucks Pub, they've got over 700 reviews now. And when we started, they had 3, and 2 of them were bad. And now they've got over 700, averaging 4.2 star rating. So it's just a matter of getting a few little systems in place. And Sawbucks is packed now, I should also mention. So that's one of the factors, is just having a ton of positive reviews out there. So it really is a worthwhile endeavor. So Jose, any final words of encouragement, any thoughts that you would like to share before we say goodbye?
Yeah, don't be intimidated. Don't be scared of it. Actually, one thing that I think will be really helpful is, because I hear this a lot from my clients, is Yelp is really aggressive in reaching out to you, selling you, and really having you spend advertising dollars with them. And so I really advise you guys to take care of your profile organically first. Make sure you're putting good imagery up there. Make sure you're engaging with people in the reviews. Again, don't be afraid to ask for those good reviews. Anytime you have a happy customer leaving, smiling at the end of the transaction, make sure you take that initiative to ask them for reviews, and do that and get good at the organic level before you even start, emptying out the wallet to do paid ads on Yelp. So, good caution for you guys, and tackle it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just the platform. But once you start getting into it, you'll see how beneficial it can be for your business.
Well said. And just a little shout out to another podcast episode you and I did, which was, and this goes to the area of email. Another place that I think every local business owner should be focused on is having a list of their customers so they can contact them to ask for things like reviews and to promote specials and the various things that we can do with a good email. And in one of the recent episodes, you and I shared 3 very simple strategies to quickly grow your email audience from 0 to 1,000 plus. So again, it doesn't take a lot to really build out, some reviews. Same with email, where you can a little bit of setup up front, and you should be golden and have a nice little list to approach ongoing. So Jose, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been great. Thank you for sharing your experiences with Yelp.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, James.
And I can see we are out of time. Now, if what we talked about today makes sense to you, but you're not quite sure how to get started, I invite you to reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to again arrange your free, no obligation, 30-minute discovery call. Bottom line is, we would love to help you bring more customers or clients to your door. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free discovery call. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode and got a lot out of it, and you have a partner or a friend or an associate who you know would benefit from what we shared here today, please do pass this episode on to them. We would sure appreciate it, and I'm sure they will thank you for it as well. Jose, thanks again, and to our listeners, thanks for listening to another edition of the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. If you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, then go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation to discuss how a smarter local marketing program can be tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation.